As a child, I was just very awkward. I didn't have a lot of friends. I couldn't look anyone in the face and communicate with them. I was just the weird, quiet kid in the back of the classroom that nobody ever even really knew existed. And I had anxiety as a kid.
What does it feel like to be a woman soldier, or in the Air Force, I should say?
The military rescued me. The Air Force rescued me. Like, it brings tears to my eyes even to this day. And it was almost 20 years ago. But it was like, I belong. I'm part of something bigger than myself. I'm serving humanity. I have a purpose and I finally belong. I spent my whole childhood feeling like I didn't belong.
What role did you play in the military? What was your job?
I found myself with the special forces. So here I was, just this young airman, fresh to the world, and they throw me in with all the special forces guys. So I'm sure you can imagine how interesting that was.
You made this jump, and what you wrote me about were horses and PTSD. And those I found very interesting because I'm not a horse person, but the horse people I know say there is nothing like the horse for connecting with a human being in very complex and subtle ways. Tell me about what you do and why you sort of knew this was the right thing to do. I mean, connected to horses, connected to PTSD. Tell me about that.
When I left my military career behind, I crashed and I found myself just feeling unmotivated and depressed, and even at one point suicidal. And that was a really scary place to be because I couldn't make any sense of it. I had such a great life and I had all these things that I should be grateful for, but I didn't want to get out of bed. And I had grown up around horses, but I let that dream go. And I met a gentleman who encouraged me to adopt a baby wild Mustang. And I found this Mustang, and she approached me in the pasture. And when I turned, she followed into the barn, and she was completely wild at the time. Just the fact that this wild animal wanted to connect with me immediately gave me purpose again. I took the horse home, started working with her. It just so dramatically changed my life. I had purpose again. I gained confidence, and I really just couldn't believe the impact. And at the time, I had no idea what this was going to turn into. At the time, I just knew that I wanted to be alive again. I opened up a business for training horses, and I start getting these women who are so much like me. And so they're showing up because they maybe didn't have horses or got out of horses. And now, they're high-powered executives, they have money again. So they go out, they buy a well-trained horse, and within a month's time, these horses are becoming aggressive and they can't get anywhere with them. The women would start bringing me their horses, and what I thought I was doing is just training the horse. And they were coming back saying, I'm managing my employees better. I'm managing my marriage better. I'm managing my children better. And I'm like, wow, maybe I created something here. I met a gentleman that said that he did equine assisted psychotherapy, and says it's about interacting with the horses in a way that the horses reflect your life and sorting through your life challenges by working with the horse. And in that moment, I was like, well, gosh, that's what I've already been doing for the past 5 years. They come out to my farm and we go into the pen with one or more horses, and the horses will show people exactly where they're stuck in life. And then we formulate a solution, and then the horses reflect the change in the person.
What is it about horses? You have to explain it. There are horse people in the world, like you, who understand something special about this connection, which is so powerful that it can get you out of bed and away from suicidal thoughts. I don't understand it. I'm not a horse person. It's a beautiful looking animal, but I don't understand that connection.
A horse is a mirror to your soul. Sometimes you like what you see, sometimes you don't. As I've furthered my research, what me and a colleague of mine are actually finding is that horses in our morphic field, in our energy field, can share a space with us. And what they do is they can actually begin to express our emotional repressions. As I started listening to people, listening to their problems, and then going into the arena and watching the horses literally role play their life. that anything that we're holding or harboring inside of us, the horses will express. And what I'm also finding is that the horse's expression will be equal or in exchange with the depth or level of repression that we're holding. So if we're only mildly repressed, the horse's expression will be mild. If we have deep repressions, the horse's expression will be great. And I'm really finding there's a synchronicity with the degree to the repression and expression. And I was just at Equifest in Kansas this last weekend giving a live demonstration. And I had a lovely volunteer. She came, newly retired lieutenant colonel from the Army. And without knowing what she was even getting into, she came into the arena and volunteered with me. And I had used also a horse that I had just met a couple days prior. And so when we put this woman and the horse in the arena together, the horse became very aggressive, like almost scary aggressive. The horse was pawing, the horse was flipping its head, the horse was biting in the air at her. I know from doing this work for 10 years that he's just reflecting what's deep inside of her. Some people in the audience were making comments like, somebody needs to go in and control that horse and show it's who's boss. And then someone else from the audience was like, somebody needs to protect that woman. Everybody was projecting in this situation, but I knew exactly what was going on in that moment. And I knew that horse, everything that horse was expressing were things locked deep inside of her that she didn't either have the awareness of or didn't have the ability to express. My favorite question in the entire world is, what is this forcing me to do that I'm not otherwise willing to do myself? And in that moment, that woman had to realize that she had everything inside of her that she needed to slay her dragons and quench her demons. And she did. She came to that realization. So it was interesting. And I also learned how much the world wants to control and protect people, which is just so relevant for all the crazy things that are going on in the world today. So it's very, very metaphoric. This work is very metaphoric. But if you really want to see the intricacies of your life, just step into the ring with a horse, because they will immediately start to play that out for you.
That's like magical. That's like mystical. Like a horse senses you on that level. Isn't that wonderful? And horse people, some know what you're saying. It's really, it feels like otherworldly, wonderful to me.
We've really had to sum it up around here that it's just magic. I don't know that we can really explain all of the science behind it. And we're working here on the farm to be able to explain some of the science behind it. And we're not quite there yet. But I can tell you over the last 10 years, it's been consistent. There's never been one moment, there's never been one interaction that I've seen between horse and human in 10 years that was not a reflection of that person. So to me, it's my truth. And half of the people in there will think I'm batshit crazy. And the other half of the people in the room will hang on every single word that I say.
As a person people have tried to knock me down, but nobody ever did. Nobody ever did, because I rode on my own train, had my own views. I was willing to hear criticism and take it in, but not stop me. Can you explain what that is for people who may not have what you and I know to be true?
I see a lot of disempowered people, both men and women, both veteran and non-veteran. I get a lot of people that see the way that I show up in the world. And I think a lot of times people only see how I show up now. They don't see all the doors that have been slammed in my face. They don't see the people that have laughed at me, that have ridiculed me. They don't see the people that have literally thought I was crazy. They just see the success that I have now. The degree of the success that you achieve is directly proportionate to how many challenges you are willing to go through. And it doesn't mean that you have to be right. It doesn't mean that you have to win. It just means that you have to keep getting back up and keep going. And I tell people all the time, what do you think about this? And they love to say, well, I don't know. To which I respond, I don't know means I don't want to look. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're saying, I don't know, I guarantee you that your heart has told you something and you're judging it. So I would encourage you to listen to that little voice inside of you, because it will never steer you wrong. It's only your judgment. It's only your subordination to society and to other people's values that keep you stuck. And so the sooner you can understand that you already have everything you need, you are already equipped with all the wisdom of this lifetime, if you would just listen to yourself. I've asked myself if I was crazy. But in the end, I know that when I don't act on my intuition, it always comes back to hurt me. I've just accessed this place where if my heart says it, I do it. And I feel the fear, do it anyway, and I get the reward. And every time you have these tiny wins, you build confidence. People always say, I need to learn how to love myself. I need to learn how to have this confidence. And I tell people all the time, self-love is innate. If you didn't love yourself, you wouldn't even be trying. If you didn't love yourself, you wouldn't even get out of bed. But when we talk about self-love and confidence, what we have to do to access that, which is already in us, is peel back the layers of doubt, peel back the layers of shame and guilt and subordination. It's there.
So you got me to do this interview with you, and it's been quite wonderful, I think, for my audience and your audience, because both you and I know something here, which is get up, put your pants on, go out there, keep your intuition senses alive, and follow a path. And if it changes, follow that path as long as your gut is telling you. I think that's what you're saying. So I want to thank you for pursuing David Hoffman to do this interview with you, Amanda.
I really appreciate your time for this interview. And I also appreciate your appreciation of my tenacity.